Alors, bon après-midi tout le monde. On va reprendre en discutant cet après-midi. Oui, quoi? Bien dans le micro. Donc, je m'approche pour être bien dans le micro. J'adore parler dans le micro. Bon après-midi tout le monde. Donc, nous abordons cet après-midi l'EDI en milieu collégial. On reçoit 4 invités de 4 collèges canadiens qui en sont à des étapes différentes de leur démarche en équité, diversité, inclusion. Donc, on va discuter avec les panélistes de l'expérience de leur collège dans ce cheminement en EDI. Et c'est ça. Pour ma part, je m'appelle Ingrid Lathoud. Je vais animer le panel avec ma collègue Brintha, Koneshachandra. Nous travaillons à l'IRIPII, l'Institut de recherche en immigration et sur les pratiques interculturelles et inclusives. Je vais laisser Brintha vous présenter la première panéliste.
Okay, so we first have Abigail, Salole. Abigail, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name. So Abigail is an award-winning educator who taught courses on social justice and equity before becoming a leader in the Sheridan's Office of Inclusive Communities. She led Sheridan's participation in the Tree Council Dimensions pilot and now directs Sheridan's EDI, Institutional Accountability Initiatives, to further embed EDI across the institution.
Nous avons aussi Audrey Bigras, qui est conseillère pédagogique à la recherche au Bureau de la recherche et de l'innovation du Cégep André-Laurendeau, donc qui est notre panéliste en personne ici. Titulaire d'une maîtrise en sciences de l'éducation et d'un baccalauréat en information et orientation professionnelle, elle détient plus d'une douzaine d'années d'expérience en recherche, développement et coordination de projets dans le milieu de l'éducation collégiale et en innovation sociale.
We also have Maxine Carter. Maxine is the Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer at Mohawk College of Applied Arts and Technology, located in Hamilton, Ontario. Maxine provides organizational leadership, direction, and oversight of the college's equity, diversity, and inclusion strategic plan and commitments, including oversight for accessibility, the Students' Rights and Responsibilities Office, the Gender-Based Violence Education Program and Policy, the Black and Racialized Student Success Center, and the Center for Social Inclusion.
Et enfin, nous avons Roxanne Santos du Collège Boréal. Je vais vous lire sa biographie en anglais. Elle m'a donné ce petit challenge de la journée. Merci Roxanne. Donc, Roxanne is the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Manager for Collège Boréal. With a background in human resources, she has played a key role in developing and implementing Collège Boréal's first Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Action Plan. Roxanne holds a bachelor's degree in modern languages and education sciences from Laurentian University, along with certifications in human resources management and leadership and inclusion. She is a certified human resources leader and a certified Canadian and inclusion professional. Merci pour votre bienveillance envers mon très bel anglais. Donc, une première question pour nos panélistes. Comment votre collège en est-il arrivé à s'engager formellement en EDI? Et I don't know if someone want to take the speech. Abby, do you want to start?
Sure, absolutely. Can I just, can people hear me? Maybe not. Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks everyone for coming to this session. My name is Abigail Salole, and I'm at Sheridan College. And I think I just will starting with a little bit of a background of how EDI shows up in our organization and when that commitment started. And I think probably everyone would have a different answer to this, but I did get a good hold of our timeline when we did our dimensions assessment and application. And it feels like a lot of people's responses to like, when did we make a real commitment to EDI? People say it showed up at about 2019. And this is when Sheridan made both a commitment to the dimensions charter, and also hired our Vice President of Inclusive Communities, Jane Nogobia. And there's, something about making that public commitment, and also hiring someone to make sure that there's a strategic decisions being made, and that voice is at decision making tables, that made that sort of like equity, diversity, and inclusion show up a little bit more like in the air for people. It was like, oh, we have a person to connect to. And I would say maybe connected to that, when I think about Sheridan's EDI journey, it very much so has a lot of pushes and pulls have helped it to take the form that it does today, and that for where it is. And when I think of pushes and pulls, definitely one of the pulls has been the Dimensions program. And not only that there was like this charter, but also there was a pilot program to help co-create what some of that change would look like. And you have sort of some a community of practice to do the work, and you're also kind of co-creating it. Also instrumental for that piece for Sheridan was the NSERC grant that helped us to also hire for this position that I'm currently in initially. And just having those resources helps to get traction, and that we have an action plan that is connected to our Dimensions application means we have something that is now also visible to the community to be accountable to. And I also think that having a framework that was common across the post-secondary sector helped us to sort of benchmark and figure out where we are amongst our post-secondary colleagues. And in terms of where we are, at a very short amount of time, we've gone from equity, diversity, and inclusion really not having a presence at all three of our campuses, to now having a presence, to also having some more clearly articulated goals towards EDI informed policies, and also EDI data equity informed decisions, so that we have data. We did our first employee census in 2020, which helps us to sort of see and track progress that we're making. And I think that's a really important conversation for people to have, to be able to show data, that it's not just about sort of tracking activity and outcomes, but that we're about impact, and to show what that work looks like. I'll pass it over to some of my panelists here, co-panelists.
Roxanne, do you want to go?
Oui, sure. So at Collège Boréal, there's a lot of similarities. Timeline's a bit different, but I would say that it began really as kind of grassroots, very organically, I think, with the employees and students, and something that kind of slowly became more formalized over time. I was in human resources when it really started to kind of evolve a little bit more quickly, around 2020 as well. And that's when I think the upper management and leadership team decided that we wanted to provide a little bit more resources. So it was more of a shared effort initially between our human resources department, student services, and a few other key players, as well as upper management. And it ended up that we were provided the resources and the time to really do a full assessment of kind of what our EDI needs were. It was really, really informed by members of our community. We used a lot of different methods to consult the community members to try and really understand the barriers and the needs, and also who our community is. It's very challenging for us because we are all over Ontario. So we really had to use different means to succeed in consulting everyone. It was also a topic that not everybody felt comfortable discussing. So it was kind of interesting, especially the first few years where it was the first time maybe formally discussed in a lot of meetings. But from that work, we were able to develop as a team a formal EDI 3-year action plan that really ties specific goals, measures, there's timelines attached to it. And I think that has really allowed us to have a shared vision and everybody to kind of see how and where they can contribute. And so, yeah, I would say that it started with a declaration of a commitment statement. En français, on dit une déclaration d'engagement envers l'EDI around 2021 from the leadership team. And from then we did the consultation process, the action plan, and it's just grown since then. We have a new department that is called the Equity, Diversity, and Indigenous Peoples Relations. So we are still 2 distinct services, but we're able to work a little bit more closely. And we've also since then took on the project of the 50-30 initiative, as well as various other projects. And there's been a lot of work with our stakeholders as well. So we offer immigration services, employment services. They all have expectations as well. So that's definitely helped informed our strategies internally as well.
Maxine or Audrey, Maxine, you can go, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Maxine Carter. My pronouns are she and her. I am coming today to you from traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations within the Dish with One Spoon here at Mohawk College in Hamilton, Ontario. Just want to give thanks for being here from traditional lands of our Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe folks. I think, yes, there are certainly similarities, and but I think that the origins of EDI from our college started, I think, around 2016, when our leadership team, through some connections, I think, and working with members across the sector and in the community, started to do some work on in terms of inclusion and leading around these issues of inclusion and equity. And so they built into their strategic plan a strategy around inclusion. I was not there at the time, but I could call that, I think I can identify in stages. Like stage 1 was that work that our senior leadership team did, and then decided to put it into a strategy. Then I was hired later in 2017 to develop and lead the implementation of the college's first EDI commitment and strategy. I think they realized that you needed to have an actual person in the role to ensure that the work gets done, it's implemented, tracked, and reported on. So I created and opened the first EDI office here at Mohawk College. And in that first phase 1, we did a lot of consultation with employees, with students, with partners, to talk about EDI and what it meant, and how we can start that conversation. That consultation led to the first draft of our equity, diversity, and inclusion commitments. And we spent that first year basically socializing those 5 pillars with our employees and students, helping them to understand more about what we were doing, why we were doing it, why it matters, and getting their further input into that. We also shared a lot of key terminology around equity and equality and the difference, and how that they need to understand that really well for us to be able to implement this strategy in a way that makes significant structural change to the organization. I also think that part of the work had to do with the fact that they were seeing really serious disparities and difference between our employees and our students who, you know, our student population is significantly diverse in all ways. So I would say phase 2 is where we were creating more awareness and understanding of what EDI means to the college, and getting further input. We also engaged more closely with our Indigenous initiatives team that existed since probably 2010 or 11. And so I worked very closely with that Indigenous initiatives team and the Indigenous Student Services to make sure we were sort of aligned, and we were supporting each other as we moved through each of the stages. And we did our very first demographic data collection that year in 2019 in that second stage. And we did it so that we can help employees understand more about why it's important to understand where the gaps and the barriers are. And to explain how this information will be used, how it will be kept confidential, and how are we, you know, when would we dispose of it, and also to be transparent about the use and how that can help us close some of these gaps. That was the same year we signed the Dimensions Charter. So we saw it. We were excited by the fact that this came to us. We had some meetings with our senior leadership team. We decided we're going to sign it and we're going to commit to that charter. It was aligning so closely with our EDI strategy and our principles. It made so much sense to do that. And we started to look at how our policies, our practices, our culture, our hiring and recruitment processes, our research ecosystem was in need of this major overhaul. And the Dimensions Charter really fell really well in line with what we were doing. We also applied for to be, you know, in that first cohort of Dimensions, because it made so much sense with the work we were doing, and we felt like we would have great partners if we could connect with colleges and universities that were on the same track as us and really wanted to make a commitment to EDI and seeing change happen. So though that I would say is how we got started within you know, this college in a really meaningful way. And the development of our very first EDI commitments strategy was then implemented in the third phase, in which we had, you know, goals and you know, objectives and tactics and metrics and evaluations. Each division had to develop their own action plan that aligned to the overall college EDI action plan. And because of we signed on with Dimensions, we decided that it made so much sense to follow that plan of getting a, you know, the self-assessment team, because we had an EDI overall, an EDI governing body. So yeah, that helped us, you know, got us on the road to connecting with other colleges and universities across the country, and doing this work in a much more meaningful way, and knowing that we were also working with some folks who were well ahead of us, some who were on the same track, and so I thought it was a great process. So I think that's it in terms of well, I guess start and then how we got moving along.
Thank you, Audrey.
Allô? Ça fonctionne. Donc, mais avant de commencer ma partie, pour les personnes qui ne me connaissent pas, vous allez vous en rendre compte dans ma présentation. J'ai un bégaiement, j'ai un trouble de la parole. Donc, pour les personnes qui sont en ligne, c'est pas votre connexion Internet qui fonctionne mal. Donc, moi, je suis ici pour représenter le Bureau de la recherche et de l'innovation du Cégep André-Laurendeau. Donc, je vais parler plus d'un point de vue axé sur la recherche plutôt que d'un point de vue institutionnel. On est un établissement collégial où il y a quand même une population qui est très diversifiée. On est à Montréal, on a beaucoup de diversité ethnoculturelle. On a plusieurs étudiantes en situation de handicap aussi, donc ce qui représente 10% de la population étudiante. On est un cégep aussi qui est spécialisé aussi beaucoup dans les techniques liées à la science et au génie aussi. Donc, qui sont des programmes, disons, traditionnellement masculins. Donc, quand on parle de la diversité de genre, c'est applicable dans ce type de programme technique-là. Sinon, on a plusieurs étudiants et étudiantes internationaux, parents allophones. On a aussi un comité LGBTQ+, qui est actif depuis 3 ou 4 ans. Donc, ce qui nous fait aussi un portrait de la diversité qui est assez large. Sinon, dans le contexte de la recherche au collégial, au Québec, de façon plus large, on a moins de moyens que dans les universités. Il y a moins de programmes de financement aussi qui sont accessibles à la recherche au collégial. C'est très compétitif aussi. Il n'y a pas nécessairement beaucoup de chercheurs ou de personnes avec un doctorat aussi. Donc, on peut voir aussi dans un contexte où, dans les programmes de financement, il y a des exigences particulières en EDI. On est moins bien outillé que dans les universités à ce niveau-là. Donc, un besoin d'outils et de formation pour le personnel qui est impliqué dans la recherche au collégial. Donc, c'est dans cette optique-là que quelques années plus tôt, on a développé la demande de financement connexion pour organiser le présent événement. Donc, notre point de départ, c'était de se baser sur les collèges qui sont plus expérimentés que nous en EDI, donc via l'héritage de dimension, ce qui nous apparaissait un bon point de base pour commencer. Donc, depuis que la subvention a été obtenue et notre événement qui a lieu aujourd'hui et demain, la programmation et les partenariats ont été évolués jusqu'à la tenue de cet événement.
Merci Audrey. Donc pour l'ensemble des panélistes, pouvez-vous nous décrire maintenant une initiative à laquelle votre collège contribue ou a contribué et comment celle-ci impacte-t-elle le collège, sa communauté et ou les établissements avec lesquels vous travaillez? Je vais laisser Brintha traduire aussi en anglais.
So we know that you participated in different programs. So we want to know how you can describe an initiative to which you are to which you are contributing or have contributed, and how does it impact your college, its community, and or the institutions you work with. We can be organic. Like, I don't want to force anyone into taking a...
Je peux y aller. Oh, excusez, la main est apparue par la suite. Je vais m'y mettre en français. Je vais m'essayer en français cette fois-ci. Donc, je dirais que... Oh,
Excuse-nous,
oui.
il y avait Audrey qui essayait d'allumer son micro.
Oh, désolée, j'ai pas du tout vu ça.
C'est correct, tu n'as pas la vue sur le stage, je pense.
Oui, vas-y, Audrey, vas-y.
Oui. Donc, dans les premières étapes, il y a bien sûr l'organisation du présent événement et les retombées qui vont suivre. Je peux parler aussi d'un plan d'action préliminaire en EDI qui est en cours de rédaction. Donc, qui devrait être lancé l'an prochain pour jeter les premières bases d'une culture institutionnelle de l'EDI dans un contexte de recherche. Donc, il y a plusieurs éléments qui devraient être dans ce plan d'action. Donc, des consultations, de la formation pour les enseignants et les étudiants qui sont impliqués dans la recherche, la veille sur les initiatives et les bonnes pratiques en EDI, du maillage avec des partenaires en EDI, la valorisation et la diffusion de bons coups en EDI dans un contexte de recherche. On est accompagné aussi par l'IRIPII pour la mise en place de ce plan d'action. Et ce premier plan d'action-là va nous permettre d'élaborer et de mettre en œuvre un plan sur 5 ans.
Alors, Roxane, je te laisserai y aller. Je vous demanderai peut-être, je vois l'heure passer, en fait, si vous pourriez prendre 1 minute pour chacune. So, just 1 minute, everyone, to do this part. On pourrait aller directement à la question 4 ensuite.
Okay. Oui, certainement. Donc, au Collège Boréal, évidemment, des initiatives la plus intéressante qu'on aurait eu l'occasion de travailler, ça aurait été le défi 50-30. Puis au début, ça nous a intéressés même à titre de signataires, de participants, parce qu'on croit sincèrement que l'équilibre de pouvoir compte. Donc, on croit vraiment à la représentation en ce qui trait au partage des décisions, etc. Donc, on trouve que la représentation fait vraiment une partie importante de l'EDI. Donc, ça nous a intéressés. On a eu l'occasion de devenir pourvoyeur des services du défi 50-30. Puis ça nous a exposé à juste tellement de belles ressources, des collaborateurs. C'était vraiment incroyable partout en Ontario que malgré le fait qu'évidemment, nos communautés puis nos besoins diffèrent légèrement, puis dans certains cas aussi même les lois, quand on parle de l'Ontario, le Québec, etc. En général, on a remarqué qu'il y avait beaucoup de similarités, excuse-moi, je vais entre l'anglais et le français. Donc, puis aussi, on a remarqué qu'il y a juste énormément d'occasions de collaboration. Donc, je pense que c'est ce qui nous est resté. Puis on était encore en train de travailler le défi 50-30. Puis on voit aussi chez les participants que même eux, la clientèle, les compagnies, rencontrent des défis très semblables au niveau de la gestion de changement, l'engagement, etc. Donc, c'est très, très, très intéressant. Puis, ça démontre juste la valeur de le genre d'initiative même aujourd'hui où on peut échanger ensemble puis trouver des solutions ensemble.
Abigail or Maxine, do you want to add something?
Okay, I can. Some of I believe we were talking about what an initiative or initiatives that we've been contributing to. I think that for us over the last few years, a lot of our work has been with our dimensions group. I wanted to just, say that collaborating was great. The pandemic shut us down the first year we were about to start. We couldn't do what we wanted to do in the way that it was designed to meet and work together. So we had to do that virtually. But what came out of that was great is that we got to present several times to other post-secondaries around the world that were doing similar work. And so we were able to present, our work to them. They were able to present theirs. There was a lot of, I guess, cross-pollination of our work. I really appreciated that experience in that type of collaborative spirit. We also, our Mohawk College also took the lead on developing a training for researchers. And that micro-credential is offered to all PSIs and anyone who wants to do research. The training was developed by us and it has been picked up across the country. We've had lots of participants across the country use that research. That research training directly came out again of our work as part of Dimensions. We applied for that funding and got it. We've done that as well with accessibility and the AODA. We participated in that project as well. Which has been great in doing some of that work. And then locally in the city, I've had the opportunity to sit on some, committees around the city where other organizations are looking for support as they develop their own EDI strategies. So those are some of the things we've done. We signed on to and worked through the gender diversity accord, a national initiative that we were also participants on. So those are some of the things that we've done to help, sort of share some of our work and also to gain some insights into what others are doing across the country. Thank you.
And I'll just add on there, maybe because Sheridan's been involved in Dimensions and also the 50-30 challenge. I'll try to end. I'm in a time crunch of a minute. I'll try to do it all. Both initiatives and programs, I think, have positively affected our immediate community and also just inclusive communities as a group of EDI practitioners and technicians. And when I think about Sheridan College's role in the 50-30 challenge, which in addition to what Roxanne said, we played a role of knowledge mobilization center in that project. So it's a project with CICAN and funded through ISAD. And through that work, we work with colleges across the country. So myself and a talented group of people who I work with. And we are able it's a really nice sandbox to get to know Canada as different post-secondary institutions, understand where they are in their EDI sort of journey. And similar to what Maxine was saying, just sort of sharing and exchanging information and practices. There's real benefit to that. And I feel like in the climate of, fiscal constraint, maybe we'll be forced to do that more in the future. So it's good that we're flexing these muscles now. But it is an opportunity, I think, to sort of prototype, get to know sort of tools, frameworks, and share them more widely. Like we have a community of practice under the 50/30 challenge with CICAN. We share sort of tools and resources that help not only colleges, but other small, medium enterprises to build their EDI maturity, and we offer courses along there as well. And I think just the more people you talk to, sort of like different entry points, different like numbers of employees that work there, where you are across the country, you can just learn a great deal more about sort of like what works, what doesn't work, what are all the factors, and just your understanding. Certainly my understanding has become more enriched by learning through others as well. I think I would end it there.
Thanks. Alors, on avait beaucoup de questions, mais malheureusement, c'est ça, le temps presse et passe. Malgré les résistances sociales et politiques actuelles vis-à-vis de l'EDI, malgré aussi les restrictions budgétaires, comment voyez-vous l'avenir de l'EDI dans les collèges? Et comment les collèges peuvent-ils poursuivre ou commencer pour d'autres leur travail en EDI et alors contribuer à mettre en place des milieux d'études et de travail plus inclusifs et plus justes pour tout le monde?
I translate, despite current social and political resistance and budget restrictions, how do you see the future of EDI in colleges, and how can colleges continue doing their work to create a more inclusive, more inclusive environments? Audrey, do you want to go?
Over to you.
Yeah. Audrey's going to start. Or Audrey, you want to go? Maxine?
Okay. Yes, okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to recall the exact question. Let me have a quick read again. But it's the future of colleges in terms
of EDI in colleges.
Yes. Okay, got it. So yes, you're right. Social, political, and financial restrictions are a major concern without a doubt. But I believe that keeping contact with each other, making sure that we continue a very similar kind of collaboration that brought us together, similar to how Dimensions was working, I think is really important to keeping colleges, either connected and continuing to do this work, because it's really important to all of us. And for those who haven't started, at least they have an opportunity to join, sort of with this collaborative approach. And they don't have to start at the beginning. I feel like we do need funding. We do need to be there at every table speaking about these issues, because colleges, in my opinion, have been disproportionately dealt a number of the students that have been streamed from high school into these, into the applied programs, which means they have no choice either to go to college or not at all. And so we have had that large number of students coming out of high school, and they tend to be from the groups and the communities that are most disenfranchised. And we do need to ensure that we're doing, equity and inclusion work, because to be able to serve these students well, and for them to reach their potential, we have to be able to have processes in place that acknowledges and supports the way they learn, that does that in a way that's respectful, without discrimination, and that supports their sort of full well-being, and helping them to reach those kind of goals. And to do that, you need training, you need policies to change, we need, you know, attitudes to be attitudinal adjustments, I guess, or training around understanding how bias and stereotyping and discrimination impacts people's lives. And I feel that we need to do that and be able to do that freely without stressing about where to find funding. So I think if we can, you know, colleges and university, all post-secondaries can really speak to this issue. It's very important that we look at, you know, getting funding and support that is shared among, you know, all of post-secondary. I mean, education shouldn't be this kind of a struggle where you can't get access to, you know, services and opportunities that respect your needs, that is done without discrimination, without, you know, stereotype, and those kinds of policies require funding, require expertise, requires people who know what they're doing to make the change. And I think we above all, we need a leadership that understands that. We need political, you know, the political will, and the opportunity to be able to do these things. So I feel that it's really important for colleges to stay on this track, and for us to recruit as many colleges, you know, to provide the support that they might need. And so I think the structure that many of us have now would be very helpful to at least to colleges for sure, in helping them to get started in the work. And to have this body of folks who have the experience and who have the expertise and have got, you know, that can provide that support without them having to constantly worry about where's funding coming from to do the work. Anyway, I'm going to stop there because, yeah, I could probably go on about it a long time. And I think other people have want to share some of their ideas.
Do you want to go?
OK, oui. Donc, je vais rappeler l'importance de se doter d'une culture institutionnelle qui est axée sur l'inclusion et l'EDI, donc ce qui passe entre autres par la formation, l'information et la sensibilisation du personnel. Particulièrement dans un contexte lié à la recherche. J'ai quelques exemples concrets que je peux apporter. Donc, ne pas avoir peur d'innover, d'être à l'écoute, d'apporter des idées qui sont créatives pour assurer cette inclusion. Donc, dans le cas, par exemple, d'une personne qui est impliquée dans la recherche et qui veut constituer des équipes ou recruter des personnes étudiantes pour des postes d'assistants de recherche, comment on peut inclure ces personnes-là dans ce type de contexte. Donc, de proposer des horaires qui sont flexibles, de favoriser dans la mesure du possible soit le télétravail ou le mode hybride, de proposer des canaux de communication qui sont adaptés à ces personnes-là. Dans le vocabulaire aussi qu'on utilise pour désigner des groupes qui sont sous-représentés, de faire attention aussi, de s'adresser à ces personnes-là avec un vocabulaire qui tient compte de leur réalité, de leurs préférences aussi. Donc, je pense entre autres à l'écriture inclusive, au langage épicène aussi. Et dans un contexte aussi, comme je le mentionnais un peu plus tôt, on a beaucoup de programmes qui sont axés en sciences et en génie. Donc, même si à première vue, ce n'est pas des programmes qui semblent liés à l'EDI, c'est de prendre quand même l'EDI en compte parce que ces recherches-là ou ces innovations-là qui vont être créées, c'est des personnes comme vous et moi qui vont les utiliser. Donc, c'est de se mettre aussi à la place des utilisateurs de ces innovations-là. Donc, est-ce que ça va être des personnes en situation de handicap ou des allophones? Donc, de garder cette vision-là de l'EDI, ça peut faire en sorte que les processus de recherche soient améliorés.
J'allume et j'éteins le micro, alors ça prend un certain temps. Merci Audrey. Roxanne, Abby, do you want to add something?
Oui, moi je pense que ce qu'il faut, c'est continuer à se rappeler de l'objectif, puis c'est pour qui? C'est pour les membres de la communauté qu'on dessert, c'est pour aider à minimiser les barrières. Je pense que quand on se rappelle pourquoi, puis oui, c'est sûr qu'on veut répondre aux attentes des partenaires externes, puis les bailleurs de fonds, puis on veut être en conformité, mais vraiment, it's the right thing to do. Puis je pense que la société a évolué, puis ça serait franchement plus possible pour nous d'efficacement préparer la main-d'œuvre sans intégrer les principes liés à l'EDI. Puis, comme on mentionnait les autres, c'est sûr que les structures internes, ça appuie énormément les ressources dédiées à l'EDI, mais vraiment, puis c'est absolument essentiel, mais vraiment, le travail il est partagé dans tous les secteurs. Puis c'est avec l'engagement de l'équipe de haute direction et puis les divers secteurs qu'on va pouvoir continuer à réussir à avancer l'EDI.
Yeah, thanks. I think everyone had some really great comments, and maybe to that, I would just add, I think it'd be really helpful for us to just communicate better as EDI practitioners. And I think that's one of the nice things about being with a group of people is that you can really like ask questions, see things from different angles. And, you know, even the language of like EDI, I keep saying EDI all the time, EDI, and a lot of people don't even know what EDI is. So it's just like really like going back to basics, communicating on an ongoing basis of, you know, who our constituencies are, and definitely colleges, you know, our work should be centered on students. And I, from there, I also think it's important to see how, you know, students and sort of like workplaces are connected. And I think there might be some really interesting opportunities for students and faculty and staff to work together a little bit more in the future is my hope. I don't like silos and divisions, and I feel like there's more similarities than we know between faculty and students. I also feel like research is a really great way to talk to and address inequities and barriers, and to learn more about them and from each other. When I think also about the change that I would like to see is just sort of being really centering, and this is one of the many things I really liked about the Dimensions program, is this insistence that the voices of Indigenous people and equity deserving groups should be at the center of the work. And I think that's for students and employees and everyone, because that's who this work it prioritizes. You know, I do think equity, diversity, and inclusion does benefit everyone, but I really do feel like we need to sort of make sure we're meeting our goals and impact when it comes to those groups. And I would like to see more sort of decolonization of EDI in terms of our practice. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities there in terms of conversations with Indigenous ways of knowing, doing, and being that can only make some of our practice richer.
Merci beaucoup. Alors, il nous reste quand même un bon 20 minutes. Je sais qu'on a plusieurs questions en ligne. Vous inquiétez pas, on prendra le temps de poser les quelques questions qui sont là. J'aurai une dernière question pour nos panélistes. Comment un cadre national en EDI comme dimension, mais qui pourrait peut-être prendre une autre forme ou la même réinventer, on ne sait pas. Donc, comment un cadre national vous a-t-il ou pourrait-il soutenir votre collège? Et puis, j'ai une sous-question là-dedans. Qu'est-ce qui vous a été utile ou qu'est-ce que vous aimeriez y retrouver dans ce type de cadre national? Qu'est-ce qui serait important pour vous?
So how could a national EDI framework as the Dimensions program could support you in your college? And can you repeat the end?
Qu'est-ce qui vous a été utile ou qu'aimeriez-vous y trouver?
So what was useful for you, and what would you like to see in this framework?
I can speak to that. I think having worked EDI at the beginning, a lot of us individually, because there just were not very many resources that were out there, having kind of a great basis to start with and a point of reference would have been helpful. So for other institutions that are maybe a little bit further behind, I think it would be extremely important that it be informed of members of equity deserving groups for it to really be effective. And I think one piece that would also be key is accountability. Accountability would have to be tied in there so that it's not just a superficial statement, that there has to be some level of accountability with regard to tracking change and measures.
Merci Roxane. Quelqu'un d'autre? Quelqu'une d'autre? Audrey, Abby, Maxine.
Okay, ben, je peux y aller peut-être. Un cadre national tel que proposé par Dimension, ça permet de camper l'EDI dans un contexte à grande échelle. Donc, on ne travaille pas juste seul dans notre coin comme institution. On peut avoir une communauté de pratique. On peut voir aussi ce que d'autres établissements ont fait aussi et s'inspirer de leurs bonnes pratiques aussi. Et ça permet aussi de centraliser les actions et les initiatives qui sont faites en EDI.
Merci Audrey. Maxine, Abigail, do you want to add something?
I could, yes. Perhaps I think to add to that, all great, excellent suggestions for sure from my other colleagues. I think maybe having just a national repository where or where a resource material could be kept, I think would be very helpful if we could have something similar to, you know, what Dimensions had before, but more on a national level. I think that, of course, access to funding and models for various models for you know, colleges and other post-secondaries to use that would work for them. I think those things are important. Access to you know, various like the skill sets that are needed to do the specific things you might need. Strategists, for example, people who are implementers, who can make tools, you know, outreach folks, training and education in this area. So that it's really, and I think training isn't everything, but it becomes really important to have training that are not superficial, but serious, real training for people to understand what needs to happen in Canada, how this works in our space, because while racism and discrimination exists everywhere, colonization, you know, exists everywhere in the world. But, you know, each country, I think, and even sometimes communities have their own way in which this might look. And so having access to information and access to folks who have experience, you know, you know, maybe a repository of experts who can, you know, you can consult with would be very helpful in that regard. And being connected, of course, to, you know, our policymakers, and, you know, politically too, who are supporters of these initiatives and know the importance of it and why it needs to be embedded everywhere, not, you know, not just post-secondary. This has to be a community-wide work and commitment. But I think if we're taking the lead in this sector, that we have an opportunity because to do a really good job. We have access to excellent folks, people who are well-educated, researchers who have been doing this work. So I think that it needs to be fully supported, not just with funding, but with people who have knowledge and experience, with support, with legislation, and training. So those are some of the things I can think of off the top of my head that I feel would be very helpful to something as large and as necessary as this.
Merci beaucoup.
Thanks. And to that, I maybe would just add that like a really important element for me of an EDI framework is, and why I really value the Dimensions framework is the intersectionality piece. I feel like when I would compare, you know, the Dimensions framework to the framework of other countries, it's definitely one of the strengths of that framework. It is intersectional. I feel that it recognizes like a context-based choice for how EDI work happens. Makes a great deal of sense to me. So it's sort of like EDI should exist, you know, embedded within policies, employment systems, and how you can prioritize and embed it in different systems. I would also just say that we do, I did get a little bit of a message here. We do have a community of practice with the 50-30 challenge, the the Knowledge Mobilization Center at Sheridan. And in the chat, I put in our link to the Knowledge Mobilization Center, and you'll see if you're interested in joining our community of practice, you're welcome to. So we talk about different things. There is this idea that we share resources together. It is a learning exchange. It is so, for example, I've gone and presented for our EDI data dashboard, talking about, how to do a census. And for some people who it's really new for, we've given examples of what our survey looks like, and we can help people along the lines of that. And I don't work alone, so there's a few people in the office who would be happy for you to join us. We work sort of like based off of what people are interested in. And so if we hear people are interested in something in particular, we'd be happy to address that in that space. So I'll just leave that there.
Merci, Abby. Je pense que la partie intersectionnalité était vraiment importante à rajouter. Merci de l'avoir fait. Et puis, si jamais des établissements francophones souhaitent se joindre à la communauté de pratique francophone, nous avons l'équivalent donc en français. Vous pouvez venir me voir plus tard. Et puis peut-être qu'on pourra la repenser pour revivre Dimension dans le futur, en tout cas. On prendrait les questions du public. Donc, je sais qu'il y en a déjà en ligne. Est-ce qu'on voudrait commencer avec les questions en ligne?
On peut. Merci. Alors, une première question d'Anouche. What support/follow-up for your Dimensions work have you received from CICAN, which is College and Institute Canada?
Est-ce que quelqu'un veut commencer, veut répondre?
I think I can sort of try to answer a little piece of that, if that's helpful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. So CICAN received funding from the government of Canada, which is separate. So Dimensions was very much so directed at the research ecosystem and connected to the Tri-Council for research, and that was the focus. But I would say that Dimensions also had the research ecosystem as a focus, but we ended up looking at the whole institution. So it is like two different things. And maybe the piece that is the opportunity to for more to happen is that the 50-30 challenge is through the 50-30 challenge, CICAN does have that community of practice, which we host at Sheridan College. So I did put that link in the chat, and there is a conversation about developing a national framework for colleges that helps to organize some of the EDI work. Now, there's a lot of different sort of like ideas about what should be in it. So it's very much so a work in progress, and we're open to different ideas. But maybe the promising piece is that there is an opportunity for something similar in terms of holding colleges sort of together. Maybe how it's not like Dimensions, though, is that it would be centered on colleges for the most part, and not all post-secondary institutions, and not as much focused on the research ecosystem.
Anyone else? Roxanne, est-ce que tu voulais prendre la parole ou ça va? Elle dit non, fantastique. Okay. Alors, je prends.
On était en retard un petit peu avec Dimensions, donc oui.
Marie-Josée, as-tu une autre question pour nous?
So there's someone who raised a hand online. I'm just gonna allow the person to open their microphone. Swad, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, thank you so much for this great presentation and a great day together. My question was regarding, I asked it very early this morning. It was about, is the EDI research still pertinent in after this announcement that you announced today? I didn't know about it, that the EDI dimension was cancelled. So my question was regarding, is research still pertinent? But I think that my question has been answered throughout your presentations. And yeah, I don't know, you want me to tell you a little bit more about my research topic that was including the EDI aspect, or?
Je ne suis pas certaine qu'on aura le temps soit d'aller sur le sujet de recherche. Est-ce que vous voudriez plus peut-être synthétiser la question?
Oh, do you want me to translate, Swad? Yeah. So we're saying that...
je peux désolé, je l'ai dit en français. Non, en anglais, je peux le dire en français. En fait, ce que je voulais savoir, c'est c'est l'EDI, la recherche dans le domaine de l'EDI est toujours utile malgré l'annulation du programme de dimension. Voilà, c'était ça ma question. Et si pour une personne qui fait de la recherche doctorale, s'il y aurait toujours une possibilité de financement pour les études doctorales. Donc voilà.
Audrey, est-ce que tu veux pas répondre à la première partie de la question, selon toi? Est-ce qu'une recherche en EDI serait toujours pertinente malgré que Dimension n'existe plus?
Ce serait toujours pertinent, effectivement, parce que l'EDI, c'est un processus qui se fait à long terme aussi. C'est sûr que la fin du financement de ce programme-là marque quelque chose, mais on peut quand même continuer à faire de la recherche liée à l'EDI et à continuer aussi les initiatives qui sont pertinentes en EDI dans ce contexte-là. Donc, ça a toujours sa pertinence.
Je vais me permettre de répondre aussi à la question. Je change de rôle, mais les enjeux vécus par les personnes des groupes en quête d'équité, les barrières systémiques existent encore, même si le programme Dimension n'existe plus. Donc, de ce fait, je pense que la recherche en EDI est toujours pertinente et nécessaire. En ce qui concerne les subventions, pour les personnes au doctorat, je ne suis pas certaine que Dimension faisait cela. Donc, ce n'est pas parce que Dimension n'est plus qu'il n'y a plus de possibilité de trouver des subventions en recherche.
Non, je ne pense pas que Dimension faisait ça. C'est juste qu'en général, c'est le sujet, le sujet a été annulé par Dimension, qui est le gouvernement. Est-ce que les autres organismes subventionnaires garderaient l'intérêt?
Voilà. Est-ce qu'il y a des personnes d'organismes subventionnaires qui voudraient répondre à cette question? Je regarde certaines personnes dans la salle et d'autres en ligne qui ne voient pas que je les cible.
Ben, je peux peut-être répondre, Ingrid, si tu veux, mais
oui,
c'est Nathalie. L'EDI n'a pas été annulé par les organismes subventionnaires. C'est sûr que le programme Dimension en tant que tel, mais il y a encore énormément d'initiatives EDI qui se font à travers les 3 agences subventionnaires. Au niveau d'une aide financière pour un doctorat, je vous dirais que la nature du sujet, je vous dirigerai vers le CRSH qui continue le travail EDI, particulièrement au niveau des champs de recherche. Donc, absolument, il y a encore Il n'y a pas eu il y a pas un effacement du dossier de l'EDI, là. On pouvait encore dire le mot EDI. C'est juste ce programme-là en particulier, mais oui.
Merci Nathalie d'être venue à notre secours.
Merci beaucoup.
Est-ce qu'il y avait une troisième question? Je pense qu'il y a Anouche qui voulait peut-être répondre à celle-ci aussi, c'est possible? J'ai vu une main levée.
Oui, bonjour. Je tiens à vous saluer. Je vous envoie des messages, mais vraiment, je suis très émue en écoutant vos témoignages aujourd'hui. I'm really moved by all of the accounts and today, and I just wanted to follow up on my question because I think there were, although dimensions went quietly into the night, I think it's very important that we find a way to ensure that there is no dilution of EDI. And dimensions played a very important role as an anchor, but also as a masthead and a lighthouse for a lot of the EDI initiatives. And all of your testimony today just actually amplifies the case of its structuring effect. Right, that it really helped on coordination, assessment, improvement, you know, and progress. So even though there isn't a research component, it's true that colleges were part of the pilot project, and so I think it's it's a very important moment now. We lost the minister. I mentioned that we lost the minister who was the big voice for dimensions at the cabinet table, but there are a lot of other supporters around the cabinet table who need a movement to help them nudge the current ISED minister right now. They can't do it alone. But this government has staked its claim, and my view is that I think this is a very important opportunity. We have a little window before Parliament rises rather, and that this is a very important opportunity to show that that all of your work doesn't just kind of disappear into the ether, or that you all have to spend all of your precious resources reinventing the wheel and trying to recreate something. Like, it's just a waste of resources to kind of, I hate the expression, throw the baby out with the bathwater. But it's there. It's working. An external evaluation by Cathexis gave it a sterling review. And so the problem is that nobody was there to speak up, including people who are high up in the agencies, just kind of let it roll down the hill. And so I personally think it's the most efficient thing to do, which is to seek some kind of reinstatement or 2.0 or what have you, but without scaring the government into thinking that they're going to need a whole bunch of other resources and a whole bunch of other capacity and have to rethink and everything. It's a plug and play. Dimensions is a plug and play right now. And it created, I'm just even hearing now, and I'm speaking to you as a member of governing council who started in 2018 when it started to roll out, and who was renewed and who watched this happen. I do not know if this was brought before governing councils. I know that equity-seeking groups were not consulted. The Anti-Black Racism Committee was not consulted. The Indigenous Research Circle was not consulted. So there's a major process program right now. And I just wanted to speak to that. And I think we have to hold leaders to account, all of those leaders. That's why I asked about the CICCAN, because I was deeply disappointed to watch all of the Science and Research House of Commons Committee and not see anybody mention it. I mean, I'm hearing now from all of you in colleges how important dimensions was as a structuring force in your work. So we need to make sure that our leaders hear from us and know that we are not going to go quietly into the night. And that I think we need also for the government to know that we, maybe the agencies made a mistake here, and that and that they can swoop in and save the day, and help resolve this oversight, right? So those are my 20 cents. And je tiens à vous remercier. Je ne sais pas si vous voudriez que je prononce également en français. Je serais heureuse de le faire, mais c'est tout ça pour dire simplement que j'entends que Dimension avait de la valeur dans votre travail et que je pense que c'est le moment d'assurer qu'on ne gaspille pas, qu'il n'y a pas de gâchis en ce moment et qu'il y a, je pense, des opportunités d'assurer. C'est le moment, il y a un moment avant que la Chambre de commune termine ses travaux, qu'on puisse faire un effort collectif. Merci beaucoup.
Je vais me permettre de te couper juste parce que on arrive à la fin, puis il y a Maxine qui voulait réagir. Je vais la laisser réagir. On a la traduction pour les personnes qui sont en ligne en français ou en anglais, dépendamment de la langue. Donc on va espérer qu'elles aient pu entendre ou lire la traduction de ce que tu as dit en anglais. Maxine, few words to close and to react, please.
Oh, thank you so much. I just wanted to say thanks to Anush for bringing that forward. Those are excellent points. And everything you've said is absolutely important. You know, and I hope it can happen. I really appreciate that the word has to get out onto the floor. I appreciate, you know, Minister Duncan's appearance. I sat in on those initial consultation several years ago when she was putting this together. And I was really excited about the fact that finally in Canada, we had someone at that level willing to put the money, the energy and the voice, you know, forward. I thank her so much for doing the work. And I do hope someone else picks up the torch, but we're here to do that. And I just wanted to mention, you probably already know though, that there is a Dimensions cohort that is putting together some work. I can't take any credit for it, but the group did it. I think some of them are online here, who took the time to start coming together to figure out a way to bring this back, to reignite and get funding. And it's very small funding for a project that has done an amazing amount of work and moved us forward. There's a lot more to go. We have a long way to go still, but I just wanted to say that is important, that we have that voice. And if we could find a way, Anush, to do that, you know, I would be there to support it because I know that we need that kind of word. We need the support to keep it going. And yes, I just also wanted to mention lastly that applied research is very important in colleges. I have seen the transformation in our research ecosystem here at the college by implementing recruiting and hiring practices that are based on equity and equity deserving groups. I've seen the training and development that's happened, and researchers are so important to having this kind of knowledge and expertise and wisdom around why they need to, you know, to make their reach farther, to make sure that they include marginalized, disenfranchised, underrepresented groups that have been traditionally, their voices have been traditionally left out. It changes the whole research projects that they're doing, and the outputs that they get is so much richer. So I, for one, would love to see even the research aspect in colleges well-funded to support this kind of work. So thank you very much for inviting and including me on your panel. I so thoroughly appreciate it, and being able to sit with the other panelists today who are all amazing in the work that they're doing. So again, thanks a lot for inviting us, Ingrid, and others.
Thank you so much, everyone. Maxine, Abby, Roxanne, Audrey, merci infiniment d'avoir été avec nous aujourd'hui. C'est trop court, 1h30, 1h15, donc on arrête ici. On a une pause de 10 minutes environ. On va partir en atelier ensuite. Donc, pour les personnes qui sont en ligne, vous allez recevoir dans quelques secondes le lien qui vous permettra de rejoindre l'atelier en français. Il va falloir que tu t'approches de moi, Bibiana, si tu veux me parler, parce que je ne... C'est ça, les ateliers commencent à 15h, donc dans un petit moment. Mais vous allez recevoir donc en ligne l'accès au groupe, soit en français, soit en anglais. Donc, rejoignez-nous sur ce lien Zoom et pas sur celui de la journée d'aujourd'hui ou de demain. Et pour les personnes qui sont en présence, ben, restez avec nous. On va faire l'atelier ici même. Je vous souhaite une bonne suite d'après-midi, puis on se retrouve tantôt.